Okay, we are on. Hello, Jody. How are
Hello.
you? We are
I'm good.
on. I'm gorgeous. How's the weather in Cape Town?
Listen, today we have a beautiful day, so sunny skies.
Oh,
I'm looking forward to it. It's been beautiful over the last week or so.
yeah.
So happy Saturday to you all the way from Cape Town.
Yeah, you guys are lucky. So we have very gloomy, rainy weather in Joburg.
Oh no.
Not
Oh
great.
no.
Anyway,
Okay, well,
but
we're
we'll
going to
get
bring the
into it.
energy.
We are going to bring the energy. Very warm welcome to you, and also just a very warm welcome to the people that are going to be listening in on this session. And Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New
Happy New
Year.
Year. Brief introduction. My name is Kanya Makutulela. I'm the founder of Kanya Pukoyo. So why Kanya Pukoyo? So direct translation of Kanya Pukoyo means let your light shine.
Love
And
it.
how it came about was, it's actually a very cute story. So my mother actually used to sing this lullaby when I was a baby.
Mm.
Yeah, and she used to say, Kanya pukonyo, Kanya lumamako, which means, Kanya,
Oh.
wherever you are, shine for your mother. So I was only ever supposed to shine
Oh.
for my mother.
Knowing else, I love your mom.
Which is really sweet. So, and I
Beautiful.
think, with African names, with the meaning behind African names, I
Mm.
think for me, as I've grown, I've really just had an appreciation of the depth and the responsibility of
Mm.
that my name carries, which is light, right?
Mm.
Hope.
Mm.
So with that, that's how Kanya Bukoya was born.
Love
And
it.
so yeah, and really what I want is really just for everybody to let their light shine. Ne?
Mm. Beautiful.
So yeah, so the objective of why I've set up these sessions is two things. One, I want to empower people. Two, I want to, in a very meaningful way, elevate people. And that's why I bring on exceptional and experts like yourself, Miss Joe.
Thank
So
you.
without further ado, I want to get straight into who you are and the questions
Mhm.
that we have received, um,
Sure.
our people. Cool. So just a formal intro of who we're talking to today. So Miss Joe Blake, a very seasoned talent executive with over 15 years experience, not only in technical recruitment, but also in executive search, strategy, and employer branding. Her expertise are in crafting and executing talent attraction and employer branding strategies that span over leadership, mid-career, and graduate hiring. Not only does she have an honors degree from Stellenbosch, but this lady has a master's degree from the University of KwaZulu-Natal. So, of course,
Wow.
she very seamlessly integrates her very strong academic insights with very practical expertise, which is amazing. She is currently at the helm of talent acquisition for Woolworths Holding. Hello. She champions the power of storytelling to foster not only inclusivity, but also to really drive organizational success. She's passionate about lifelong learning, and Joe really is committed to not only inspiring growth, but really having meaningful impact, not only in corporate, but in society at large. And that's why we have you today. Welcome, Joe.
Ah, thank you so, so much.
Okay, so my first question, I'm getting right into it. We have a
Sure.
horrific unemployment rate in South Africa. So many people are in the job market. It is saturated. So how
Mm.
do I, as a job seeker, stand out in such a competitive market?
It's a great question. And I think even at this time of the year, New Year, whether you are somebody who's trying to enter the job market for the first time, or whether you're a professional like ourselves who are thinking, maybe I need a change. That is a question that I get asked sort of on the daily. There isn't a specific formula. There isn't something that I'm going to tell you today that you can apply and you'll be guaranteed to get the job. What I will say though, is that what doesn't work
Mm,
is not being intentional about how you are putting together your career profile or your CV. Okay. So I think a lot of the time people miss a beat when they don't take the time out to actually apply their mind around what they're putting to paper. If you think about the recruitment process, it's much like a bit of a courtship, you know, in the current world, we can think about Tinder, right? So what you put on your Tinder profile, what I see first time is going to make me swipe right or swipe left. And I know it sounds strange, but when you're looking at your career profile or your CV, that is the first glimpse into who you are as an individual, into your values, into your experience and the skill that you're bringing. And I think often people don't spend enough time crafting and actually telling that story so that they are able to then stand out. Your CV is your first kind of entry into the game and into the running. So if you've not spent enough time understanding self, first of all, I think that's very important. I don't think we spend time enough with what is it that I'm looking for ultimately in my career, even if you are a professional. And if you're a young person entering the job market for the first time, yes, I know. And I empathize with you because I was that person who just wanted experience. But in saying that, I will still encourage everybody to sit and spend time with articulating for self what it is ultimately that you're wanting to gain out of your experience in the job. Okay. So I do think your CV, take the time. There are a multitude of free templates that are out there at the moment. Seeing black and white word CVs, I'm going to tell you straight off the bat, like those days are gone. You actually need to take time to think of yourself as a brand. Right? Personal branding isn't about Nike and Adidas and McDonald's back in the day who had slogans. I'm not saying we all need to have a slogan. However, your CV is a bit about positioning your personal brand. So what does Joe stand for? What does Joe value? What skill and experience is Joe bringing to the table? That is the story that your CV is actually articulating for you. And so I think if you think about it in that vein and you go, okay, so this is a window into who I am and the experience and skill that I bring, you'll start thinking about what you're putting onto your CV differently. Okay. And then it extends beyond the CV because remember, ultimately, we live in a digital world. You leave a digital footprint every single day. So I get a name, maybe a referral, maybe I see your CV come through on a job portal. Amazing. I open up. It's Kanya Jajana. Okay, perfect. Let's go through her CV. I see what you've articulated on your CV. I go into your LinkedIn profile. Your LinkedIn profile is another opportunity where people have an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. And also, if you think of LinkedIn, it's one of the biggest talent professional networks in the world. If I think about how many Africans living in Africa are even using LinkedIn, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are in the job market, there's a multitude of us that are sitting on that platform to be able to network with either professionals that are similar to us or seek out job opportunities there. So you need to start thinking about, well, is my personal brand and my CV articulating the same message on a platform like a LinkedIn? And so even if you're using other career platforms, whether it's PNet or Career Junction, whatever the case may be, remember what you're putting there and how you're building up your profile. There's got to be a consistency in what you're saying on your CV as well. And I think that's the key.
And Joe, so sure, you've dropped a lot of nuggets there. I just want to talk to practically for me and the job seeker. So what are some of those pertinent things? Like, is a cover letter still a thing?
Look,
can I put a photo of myself on my CV?
Got you. Beautiful. I love those questions. Okay, so practically, I would definitely encourage a photo. Or an image of yourself. And remember, it needs to be a bit of a professional image. So think about how you'd like to show up in the workplace. You know, that old age saying of dress for the job that you want. I think you need to take yourself seriously. So, and you can do it with any of your phones these days. They take good quality pictures. What we're looking for ultimately in the picture is that 60 to about 65% of the image should be your face. So a head and shoulder shot is really what we're looking for. pop that on, that brings a bit of a personable, relatable feel to your CV. Now it's not just a name. I'm actually able to put a name to a face. And if you think of the psychology behind that, it's about building a relationship on paper, right? So I would definitely encourage that. The days of cover letters, and some people might have different opinions.
Yeah.
If there is an opportunity for a cover letter, then, by all means go for it. But I would encourage you to keep it short, sweet, and to the point. Nobody has the time these days to read through reams and reams of content. And so your cover letter really should be responding to why this job opportunity, why you are right for that job. That's really what your cover letter should say. Your CV, practically, please remove any identification numbers, street addresses, anything that can identify you outside, in the big bad world. So I know it's a little bit of a negative thing to talk to, but I don't want any identity numbers, street addresses that somebody else might be able to access, use, elsewhere. So remove that off your CV. In the recruitment process, where there's an opportunity for you to respond to an ID or a street address, that'll happen in the process. It doesn't need to stay and live on your CV. Remember, your CV is going to be put onto public platforms. If you are, applying to any job portal, or maybe even creating a profile on a job portal. So try and remove the ID numbers and the street addresses and any other personal information outside of, your name, surname, age, things like that. And then when it comes to the content around, and I'm talking to professionals now. So where it comes to the content of professionals talking to, this is my job at such and such a place, and this is what I did. Please, guys, think clearly around. I don't want to see you articulating your whole personal development plan or your key responsibilities from your role profile. That is not what we want to see. Okay. Like I said in the beginning, gone are those days where we want to see reams and reams of content, right? Because time is money. So yes, I want to see Joe Blake is working at Woolworths Limited. She's working within talent. What are the key and critical things that you're focused on in that job? Let's say list 3 to 5. Okay. And then I want to talk to the impact. So if you're thinking around your CV, think about whether it's a previous job or whether it's a job that you're currently in, what have you achieved in the time that you've spent in that job? And that's what you should be articulating, because ultimately what hiring managers are looking for is, okay, so Joe was employed. Let's talk about me. Right? I was employed at ABSA for 5 years before I moved to Woolworths. What did I achieve in the time that I was there at ABSA? That's what people want to kind of understand.
So it's not a list of what you were actually responsible for, but actually what value did you bring?
Exactly. It is about that value. And I think ultimately a lot of people go like, oh, the more I have on responsibilities, listed on my CV, the better it is for me. If there are things like technology that you're exposed to, if you worked on key projects that you can obviously talk about on a public platform, if you have saved time, put in processes that save time, costs, anything like that, improved quality, those are the things that you're looking for. And a general sort of critical summary around, like I said, 3 to 5 of your key areas that you look after in your job or what you're responsible for. That's ultimately what should live there.
Awesome. Sure. That's amazing. Okay. So now I have spruced up my CV and now I've got an interview with Miss Joe Blake. What are some common interview questions that I need to make sure that I'm prepared for when I get into that interview?
I think today, what's really obvious is that people are wanting to connect more as human beings. So I think ultimately, if you prepare, number one, in reviewing what you put onto your career profile, your CV, spend time, obviously thinking about, well, how do I want to show up on that day? How do I want to look? And I think people overlook that in that they go, oh, I'll just put on a shirt and a tie, or throw on a dress and a jacket, when the day comes.
But I've not.
But you'll be surprised at how much of an impression
Mm.
that kind of leaves. So spend time preparing, how do I want to show up? What do I want to dress like and wear? Go over your CV, look at the job spec, right? Prepare the job spec.
Yeah.
If there is a job spec online that you go through that and for yourself and look at your CV, look at your experience and your skill, and for yourself, articulate the synergies and the responses around. So I applied for this job. This job is asking me to do strategy within talent.
Yes.
What in my experience and skill equips me to do that? You should be able to answer those types of questions.
So like in an example type of way.
100%. So you want to weave in how your experience and skill responds to that job spec. So make sure that you understand both sides, the job spec and of course your CV. Once you are sitting in that interview, I would so encourage everybody, whether you are seasoned professional, whether you are early careers, of course, nerves and being anxious it's a normal part of life. You're meeting somebody new, you're almost walking into a test scenario, if you will. That's okay. I want to encourage you to take those nerves and channel them into something positive, right? So ultimately, I think when you walk into an interview setting, the first thing that you need to think about is the person that's invited you there wants you to get the job as much as you want the job. That's it. Because ultimately, I won't take our time, Kanya, of my day. I don't know hiring managers who take time out of their day to spend 45 to an hour with an individual, talking to their experience and their skill.
That's powerful.
And they don't want them to get the job. I mean, practically think about that. So I think if you go in with that mindset, like already you can calm yourself. Really, it's about you then just creating a connection. Human relationships are so key, and if you're able to connect with that individual in the interview, be yourself. I know a lot of people go like, oh God, what does that mean? Of course, you still want to put your best foot forward because you care and you're wanting this opportunity. But I think ultimately be relatable. Allow yourself to just kind of show up in your best self, come as you are. And then just kind of connect and be able to respond to those questions with actual sort of examples from your experience. I think the one thing that trips individuals up sometimes is they respond to yes and no, and they don't follow that up with an example. So if you're able to follow it up with an example, then, you're landing the depth of your experience and the way you're able to answer that question. You're letting me leave that interview going, okay, I see how. It's not just a yes or no. If you don't have the experience and you don't have an example, that's okay. Say so. I don't have the experience, Kanya, in setting up strategy and talent. However, if I was in a role that asked that of me, this is how I would attempt to do it. And that's how you can then respond. Even though you don't have that formal experience, for example, if you were in that position, if it's a scenario-based question, how would you handle, let's say, how would you handle an irate customer? I've never dealt with an irate customer. However, if I was to, this is how I would handle it. So those are the types of little suggestions and recommendations that I would make. And then I think what's really also important is spend time researching the company. First of all, make sure that you are well versed in what the company does, who their customers are, their footprint, so that you're able to speak to that, and make sure that you're ending off that interview with a couple of questions about, that you are interested in learning about either the team, either the hiring manager, or the company at large.
Sure. That is powerful. That are already in their current roles, right? And they're looking to grow, they're looking to pivot. So one of the first questions is, so how can I then effectively communicate my career aspirations to my manager or my leadership team?
It's a beautiful question. And I think a lot of the time, and I'm going to speak about it from a woman's perspective because we are ladies.
Mm,
I think a lot of the time, just in general, people are fearful of putting their hand up and saying, hey, I'm ready for this.
mm,
But I think our male counterparts, and I love it for them,
mm,
they have less of that fear.
mm,
I think the way we're socialized,
mm,
especially within Africa and
mm,
in our different cultures, it is about, kind of men are more comfortable, I would say, stepping out and saying, I'm ready. So I think ultimately what it does boil down to is relationship. If you are not having the communication, the conversations with your leader
mm,
about what it is that you are aspiring to, what
mm,
it is that you are wanting to grow towards,
mm,
they are never going to know,
mm,
right? And I think we've got to leave the whole guessing game at
mm,
the door.
mm,
So you're in a role, and ultimately, you're either looking for growth upwards or
yeah,
you're looking for growth laterally, where you want to kind of hone in on creating more depth in terms of your experience.
yeah,
If you're not going to be brave enough to say, this is what I'm looking for,
yeah,
unfortunately, the opportunities are going to pass you by.
sure.
Alongside that,
Yeah,
if you are not taking the opportunities
yeah,
to grow and develop yourself,
yeah,
to show your intention that you're serious about what it is that you're wanting to do,
yeah,
that's also ineffective, because I think a lot of the time, you get into an opportunity, you get into an organization, and you're doing your job so well that you can do it with your eyes closed, right?
yeah,
And we forget, we become complacent about, oh gosh, well, what's my next?
mm,
And I'm going to take it back to what I said in the beginning. If you're not spending time
yeah,
with yourself
yeah,
and for yourself, articulating
mm,
where it is that you want to grow to,
mm,
then unfortunately you're going to miss out.
yeah,
So find time to spend with yourself first and understand what ultimately is it that I want for my career, and then be brave enough
mm,
to have those conversations with your leader.
yeah,
And it's a plain conversation. It doesn't have to be a, big kind of conversation.
yeah,
It's really about, this is my profession.
yeah,
I take it seriously. I show up every day.
yeah,
You're doing those things.
yeah,
And so to be able to create that space,
yeah,
put, whether you have one-on-ones with your line manager, don't wait for a performance conversation.
yeah,
Don't wait for your performance plan for the year
yeah,
to articulate those things. Of course, if there's a rhythm and there's opportunity for that, take those opportunities.
yeah,
But even outside that,
yeah,
talk about, hey, I'm interested in, this is my next move. This is where I want to grow. These are the things that I'm doing to
yeah,
prepare myself.
yeah,
Whether it is about taking advantage of the learning and development opportunities internally,
yeah,
or whether it's you actually spending time outside of your work context, learning and growing, taking on different courses. I mean, there's so many different courses out there that you can do these days on Udemy and the like,
yeah,
where you can be upskilling yourself,
yeah,
and don't be afraid. Don't be shy to talk
yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Two questions from that, and you've really given some really nice information. But one, so is it not good enough for me to just go to my manager and say, I really just want to grow?
Grow to where?
Okay. So it's that
That would be my
spending
first
time and
question.
being okay. So
100%. That's my first
yeah,
question. So where do you want to grow to?
yeah,
If you can articulate that,
yeah,
how then, as your hiring manager, your line leader, am
yes,
I going to be able to create those opportunities for you, either in experience or open up doors
yeah,
or network on your behalf to say,
yeah,
hey, Tanya's interested in this, to
yeah,
other leaders in the organization. Is there
yeah,
opportunities in your function or in your area?
yeah.
So if you're not able to articulate that, then you've missed it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so someone out there also might say, you know what, we don't even have formal performance evaluation. And
Mhm.
actually, my leader just always says they don't have time, to sit and talk about me and where I want to go. What would you advise somebody in that?
It's a tough one.
Yeah,
And I imagine that a lot of the time people do experience that
yeah,
because, when you're in leadership, you're juggling a lot of balls.
yeah,
But I think I would create the space. I would take the opportunity to create the space for myself.
Yeah.
So whether it is about placing a meeting into
Okay.
your leader's diary,
Right.
putting an agenda forward saying,
Yes.
dear Mr. Leader or Mrs. Leader,
Yeah.
I want to spend this next 30 minutes or 40 minutes with you discussing
Yes.
my career growth.
Yes.
Here is what we're going to cover in this meeting, so that they are prepared and they've adjusted their mindset. So they're not going, oh, you can't say, oh, I'm so busy, I can't think about this. If
Yeah.
you've been given ample time to say,
Yeah.
your meeting's coming next week, this is what Joe wants to talk about in this meeting.
Yeah.
Then you've got to show up as a leader
Yeah.
as well to say, okay, you know, she's taken the time to put this meeting in my diary. I need to prepare for this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think at the end of the day, your leaders won't have all the answers. That there won't be, you know, all the opportunities visible to them across the organization, no matter how big or small.
Yeah.
But taking the opportunity to plant the seed, to say,
Yeah.
listen, you know, this is where I want to go. This is why I'm spending the time with you, to be able to paint a picture for you in the fact that I'm hungry to move and grow in my career. At least they are aware, right? And I'll go so far as to say, if there aren't opportunities in your current organization, then you're going to have to look beyond that and go outside of your organization. That's as plain as it is.
Because it does happen, right?
100%.
Tabiso had a great question, and he asked, how can leaders be their authentic selves in the workplace?
I loved Tabiso's question, because I think a lot of the time, and I've spent so much time with leadership in different organizations where I'm trying to help them and coach them in understanding that their humanness allows us to relate to them better as leaders. And I think at the end of the day, we live in a world that's full of kind of digital and AI and all these wonderful things. And we are talking to each other on a device almost always, right? But in that, there is still a person behind that beautiful leadership title, behind that device. And it's about connection. That's ultimately what it is. And I think the world is hungry for people to reach out and, you know, create spaces and time to connect with each other.
Yeah.
And I mean, for example, one of the things that I've done in a previous organization is to spend time with leaders on who they are outside of that title, right? So you are Kanya Jajana, you head up people for this big organization, but who's Kanya outside of that title? Kanya's a mother to two beautiful human beings. Kanya is a basketball player. Kanya is, you know, there's so much more to you. And I think if you can roll back those layers and actually show up as just a human, you know, at the end of the day, then your leadership will shine through even more, because I then understand your story and how you came to where you are. Yeah.
Sure. That's beautiful. You know, I could speak to you all day, really. But anyway, my last question to you. So who are my advocates, Joe, and how can I strengthen those relationships, either with my mentors or with my sponsors? Because that is important, right?
It is very important. And I think a lot of the time, when people talk to who my advocates are, it goes beyond just the mentorship and sponsor role. And I'm glad you brought it up, because it's so key, especially professionals that are already seasoned in their jobs. If you are someone who's hungry and you're wanting to move and you haven't taken the time to identify a mentor that can help you objectively kind of give you feedback, that gift of feedback, like, hey, Joe, this is how you showed up. Let me just help you here, or make suggestions, or you're sitting with something that you can't kind of, you know, work through. If you don't have someone to lean on, you're going to sell yourself a little bit short. So I would say spend the time identifying a mentor if you're looking for growth and development. And then a sponsor is very different to a mentor, because a sponsor relationship is about, I recognize something in you that I'm willing to put my neck out for, right? And in return, you are basically going to help me
Yeah.
also then elevate my brand. So it's a
Okay.
two-way street. So
Okay.
your sponsor is somebody that can unlock and
Yeah.
open doors for you
Yeah.
and give you opportunities or platforms, let's
Yeah.
say. But at the same time, a sponsor is not going to sponsor someone that they don't believe has the potential to kind of grow, shine, do what they need to do. So it's a very much a two-way thing. And if you think about it, it's very much about brand positioning. I'll call it
Yeah.
that, because
Yeah.
a sponsor is about, I see quality.
Yeah.
My brand is quality. And
Yeah.
so that's why I will sponsor you. So you got to show up in that sponsor relationship as well.
Yeah.
I think advocates are very much peers as well. I know that I work and I live with this philosophy that there's enough table for us all to succeed.
100%.
That's kind of my philosophy around it. And so when I have opportunities to work with different colleagues on different projects,
Yeah.
I want to have a good experience with them.
Yeah.
And so if there's opportunities for me to work on another project,
Yeah.
I then can speak up and go, oh my gosh, Joe was so great as a data analyst doing X project. I think let's bring her in on the next one. So don't underestimate your relationships internally with peers, whether they're on your level, above you, etc., more junior to you. They then too can advocate for you in the workplace.
So that's powerful. So actually, everybody plays a role in your
100%.
in your
100%. And I think if you think about it in the context of, there's a beautiful saying around, I kind of want to leave people better than I found them. If you think about your life in that way, every opportunity that you have to engage with someone in the workplace is telling a story about what you stand for, is telling a story about how you carry yourself, how you, how your experience and your skill shines through. No matter how big or small those interactions are, those are all opportunities to leave something with someone about who you are and what you stand for. And of course, what you bring to the table. And at the end of the day, good people talk about good people. Good people refer good people. Good people open up doors for good people. So, yeah, that's kind of how I'd leave that one.
And it's about putting in the work, right? Because we also
100%.
live in a world where, young people see, I don't know, people that make it like, success is an overnight thing. Whereas actually you do need to put in the hard work.
You do, you absolutely do. And I think, you know what, just speaking around that, success is kind of overnight. Like, yes, you've got influencers these days with like millions of followers, and then one day, you kind of do something and you're popular overnight. The real world it doesn't operate that way. Sure, there are opportunities and roles where that's valued, but I think for the majority of us, it is about being able to put in the hard yards, and if you take yourself seriously as a professional, whether you are starting out and you're wanting to get into the job market or not, that's kind of the mindset that you have to have. You've got to be disciplined enough to take yourself seriously and put in the work to showcase what you bring to the table. Yeah.
We are way over time, but I am so grateful for you. I value everything that you have shared. Thank you so much. I have no doubt that the people who are going to listen to this session are going to get a lot of great value from it. Love and light to you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so happy to have been a part of it. And if there's ever an opportunity again, holla.
Thank you.
But best of luck to all of those in the job market, those coming into the job market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cool. Cheers.
Bye.